Hi everyone! Today's notes are on the processes of life, or what we call the characteristics of life. Here's a list of 8 common characteristics that all living things share. In order to be considered a living thing, that living thing must contain all 8 of these characteristics. If it only has 7 of the 8 characteristics, it cannot be considered a living thing. For example, viruses have most of these characteristics. However, they cannot reproduce without a cell host. So they cannot reproduce on their own. Therefore, because they cannot reproduce, they cannot be considered a living thing. The first one we're going to talk about today is maintaining homeostasis. This word homeostasis is something we're going to talk about all year round. It's one of the biggest words in biology. It's something your body is doing 24/7. Your body is keeping your internal environment at a stable rate. So what does that mean? For example, if you go outside and it's very hot, whether you're working out or just casually sitting in the sun, your body will start to sweat. When your body sweats, it allows the breeze to come and be collected in order to cool your body down. Likewise, if you go out in the snow in nothing but shorts and a short sleeve shirt, you'll start to shiver. And when you shiver, it increases the movement in your body, which makes heat, which therefore will warm up your body. The second characteristic is reproduction. And there are 2 types of reproduction that we will talk about. Reproduction is the ability to produce offspring. There is asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. As you can see, both words are very similar. The only difference is that asexual reproduction has an A in front of the word sexual. A in front of the word means not. So when I think about it, it's not the normal sexual reproduction that we think about. Sexual reproduction is when we have 2 parents that contribute the genetic information to an offspring. So for example, mom and dad created you. Asexual reproduction is when you only need 1 parent to make an exact copy of themselves. For example, a cell will split into a new cell, which will look exactly like the original cell. Another characteristic that all living things share is that we all use and obtain energy. You need energy for every little thing you do. Whether you're chewing, writing, blinking, sleeping, you need energy. How do we get energy? We eat that energy. Different organisms collect energy in different ways, but the definition of obtaining energy is to obtain food and convert it into usable energy that allows the organism to function. Plants will get energy by absorbing it from the sun in what we call photosynthesis. Producers, which are plants, are eaten by consumers. That's how consumers get energy. So for example, we are consumers and we eat plants and other organisms in order to get energy. Adaptation is the next characteristic that we'll talk about. And adaptation is something we do all the time. For example, how are you surviving the first week of school? You're making changes. You're setting your alarm clock maybe. You weren't doing that all summer and now you have to in order to wake up in time. One adaptation that humans have that other organisms do not is the opposable thumb. The opposable thumb allows us to grasp things. It's not something that we've always had. It's something that we have gathered through adaptation and evolution. Giraffes are another example. For example, there are 2 types of giraffes, giraffes with long necks and giraffes with short necks. Since giraffes eat from trees that are high up, the giraffes with long necks were able to survive over the giraffes with short necks, and that's why we always see giraffes with long necks these days. So adaptation is a trait that makes a living organism better able to survive. Organization is the next characteristic we'll talk about. All living things are organized. They have an ordered structure that allows organisms to function. So for example, you have a digestive system. All mammals have a digestive system, and it all works the same way. We eat food through our mouth. It starts digestion there by mechanical digestion with our teeth and chemical digestion with our saliva. It travels down our esophagus to our stomach where further chemical digestion occurs, breaking up the food. It then travels to the small intestine and then into the large intestine before it's excreted out of your body. All organisms that have a digestive system have the exact same digestive system. Maybe in different sizes, but it still works the same way. All organisms are also made up of cells. There are so many cells in your body. We have blood cells, neuron cells, muscle cells, bone cells, all types of cells. So all organisms are made up of at least one or more cells. A bacteria is a single cell organism. A human is made up of billions and trillions of cells, but we all have cells. Cells are microscopic units that make up living organisms and carry out functions needed for survival. Growth and development is another characteristic. I'm sure we can all agree that you look different than you first did when you were born, right? So growth is increasing the number of cells within an organism. So when you were born, you had a few cells, and as you got bigger, every time you grow, you increase the number of cells. Development is a little bit different. This is the addition of characteristics an organism gains as they move through their life cycle. For example, this might include growing facial hair or getting a deeper voice as you get older. Response is the last characteristic that we'll talk about, and this is response to the environment. If you were to turn to your partner and yell, "Boo!" they may jump or scream or at least move a little bit. That's them reacting to an environment. For example, if the light of a street traffic sign turns red, you'll start to stop, hopefully, okay? And then you're reacting to the environment. So the definition for response is a reaction to an event in the environment. So this is our first set of notes, and I want to be very detailed about what my expectations are. So for example, at the end of every note sheet, you will see a summary section and a question section. In order to get full credit on that note sheet, you have to have completed the Cornell notes at the top, as well as write a 1 to 3 sentence summary and at least write one question. The summary should include any bolded words that are listed in the directions, so make sure you keep an eye out for that. The summary should be a basic summary about what the notes were about, while the question is something that you might have a question about. Or if you don't have any questions, maybe you can ask a follow-up question, something that's going to get our brains working a little bit more. So again, what I expect is you to complete the summary and the questions for full credit.